seconds long, and I apologize for that. Here's the story of the Verona, and this is why it matters. So in 1916, in Everett, Washington, the shingle weavers, they were called shingle weavers. They were these folks that worked up in the mountains above Everett, Washington, and they were cutting down cedar trees and making they were making cedar shingles, which were also called shakes, right? Because back east, there was this big, craze to have cedar shake houses, right? Like shingle houses. I thought that was very, very cool. And so that's what they were out there doing. They were living like fucking animals. It was a rainforest. They were underfed, they were underpaid, and they could never get dry because it was so wet. And so what they did is they would sleep in a pile, literally a pile every night, and they would switch off who got to be in the middle of the pile because that was the only way to get dry. That's how they were living. So they struck. But the bosses owned the cops. The bosses owned the sheriffs. And so they didn't have, they just gave everyone axe handles and sent them up there and literally had the cops beat the shingle weavers to make them work. That's the conditions they were in. So they struck for better pay, better conditions, right? And they sent a letter down to Seattle to the industrial workers of the world. You know, industrial workers of the world, IWW, the Wobblies, you ever heard of this? You gotta look up the Wobblies. These motherfuckers are really, really important. So they sent a letter down to Seattle to the Wobblies, and the Wobblies put together 300 men, and they put them on 2 steamships, the Callista and the Verona. The Verona was the first boat that went up. And they went up there, and they got up they were heading up into Everett, they got up to the dock. But the sheriff, whose name I'm not going to tell you because I don't want his name remembered, because he should disappear in our history. That sheriff had gone around to every bar in Everett and deputized every drunk and bum and thug that he could and put a shotgun or an axe handle in their hands. And they said, we're going to fuck these guys up. And the steamship Veronas pulled up and they swung out the gangplank. And the sheriff stepped forward and said, who are your leaders here? 200 Wobblies on the steamship Verona said in one voice, we are all leaders here. Fellow makers, Aramont is our Verona. We are the voice of resistance in a consumer society. We live out there is free one-day shipping, satisfaction guaranteed to your money back, absolute convenience, absolute lack of thought, absolute lack of empowerment and voice. But here in our Verona, we understand, you know, as I know, that in a consumer society, making anything for yourself is a political act. And here's what I charge you. Sorry, I'm running long. Here's what I'm charging you. Saturday, it doesn't stay at the lake. It doesn't stay at the campus. It doesn't stay at the divan. It doesn't stay with the kiln. Saturday, you go out into the world and you take this message. Because if you can make a pot, if you can make a dyed piece of fabric, if you can make a banjo, you can make political change, you can make economic change, you can make ecological justice, you can make it. Because that's what we do. Thank you for